Warning. This is D&D. It might get sexual or violent. Keep that in mind. Viewer discretion is advised. Hello. This is Everweave, an AI dungeon master. And I originally recorded a small video kind of showing it off, but I've decided I want this to be a full series. Kind of like roughly an hour long, something that you can just put on in the background, do work to, and kind of just listen along. So I apologize, my voice isn't the best for uh recording, like voiceover, but I'm gonna try my best. It's gonna be completely unedited and just long form, kind of almost like a podcast. So, I'm gonna go to characters. This is my little rogue, Squimbly Butt Stabber, and we're gonna create our own character. We're gonna be, I think we're just gonna go kind of basic. Human fighter with great weapon fighting. We're gonna do athletics and perception as our skills. Strength is gonna be 15. Constitution is gonna be 13. Dexterity is gonna be 13. Wisdom is gonna be 13, and I think charisma is gonna be 11. But that's gonna be boosted because of the human having. Okay, that's a bit loud. Because of the human having +1 and everything. Now, for our character name, it is not Jimmy McFighterman. That was my first character of the recording session. We're going to have Darius Blackthorn. Darius. We'll do the actual proper Darius Blackthorn. So, a human with short black hair. He wears a cape with a mercenary insignia on it. He is looking for his master's murderer. He wears the cape his master wore during his time as a mercenary. And that is our character, a human male fighter named Darius Blackthorn, looking for his master's murderer. I think we are going to, let's go ahead and start this character. We're going to start in a, I think we're going to start in a city, no, we're going to start in a village room, so let's go ahead and wake up. So the way this works is it gives you a prompt, and you simply type what you do in here. It comes with combat, rolls, and everything. So let's get started. After I take a drink of water, because I'm a bit thirsty. Sorry for that. I have one of those like one of those like sports top bottles. Sunlight filters through the worn curtains of your modest lodging, gently rousing you from a deep slumber. As you sit up on the straw mattress, the distant sounds of village life begins to stir. A rooster's proud crow, the gentle murmur of neighbors starting their day, rising to your feet. You approach the window, its weathered frame creaking softly beneath your touch. Peering outside, you take in the sight of the village square. Its beaten dirt paths converging at the central well, a gathering place and lifeline for the community. The comforting rhythm of village life hums steadily, yet your mind pulses with unanswered questions. A nagging uncertainty amidst the tranquil scene. What do you do? Check equipment. Pretty average stuff. Seems to be the same from last time. My character has some pretty decent I think pretty overall good stats. So I think I'm going to leave the village in search of the next town. Alright, let's see what we get. You gather your meager belongings, the familiar weight of your master's cape settling around your shoulders, and step out into the bustling village. The scent of wood smoke and freshly baked bread fills the air as you make your way through the waking streets. Sorry. Past thatched roof cottages and busy townsfolk beginning their day, soon the last of the village houses recede behind you, replaced by the whispering green expanse of the forest. The dirt path narrows, winding deeper into the woods where ancient trees stand as silent sentinels, their leaves forming a dappled canopy overhead. The sounds of civilization fade, yielding to the rustle of unseen creatures and the gentle sigh of the wind through the branches. The journey ahead promises both solitude and the unknown. Continue on the path. You continue along the well-trodden path, the forest growing denser with each step. Sunlight struggles to pierce the thick canopy, casting the woods in a perpetual twilight. The air is cool and damp, carrying the earthy scent of fallen leaves and damp soil. The rhythmic crunch of your boots on the forest floor is the loudest sound, occasionally broken by the chirp of a bird or the distant call of a crow. The path, while clear, shows signs of infrequent use. Branches occasionally brush against your cape, and the undergrowth presses in from the sides. You walk for what feels like hours, the monotony broken only by the changing shapes of ancient trees and the occasional glimmer of a small stream winding its way through the woods. The journey is long, but uneventful, until a faint, acrid smell begins to prick at the edge of your awareness. Investigate the smell. Continue on the path. Alright. Looks like we succeeded this check. In perception. The acrid smell, faint at first, grows stronger with each step you take. Your senses, sharpened by the wilds and years of navigating dangers, guide you as you carefully scan the dense undergrowth to either side of the path. It's not wood smoke nor the usual decay of the forest floor, but something sharper and more chemical. Rounding a gentle bend in the path, the canopy briefly thins, revealing a clearing ahead, but it's not the untouched glade you might expect. A plume of dark, greasy smoke billows lazily into the sky from within the clearing, its source hidden by the trees. Yet the stench is undeniable now, a pungent mix of burning chemicals and something organic, sickeningly sweet. The air thickens with an unsettling silence, broken only by the crackle of distant embers. Investigate the smoke. Ooh, a dexterity save. That I fail. This might be combat. You attempt to move silently through the dense undergrowth, your eyes fixed on the rising plume of smoke, but a dry twig snaps loudly beneath your boot. The sudden noise echoes in the stillness of the forest, and a harsh, guttural voice immediately barks from the clearing. Who's there? Concealment lost, you push through the last tangle of bushes, and the grim scene unfolds before you. Two crude figures, clad in mismatched leather and rusty iron, stand over a smoldering pyre. They are clearly bandits, their face rough and weary, their hands still gripping crude weapons. Tied to a stake amidst the burning embers already consumed by the flames is a small, charred figure. It is unmistakably the remains of a child. The acrid smell now makes horrific sense, a mix of burnt flesh and cheap accelerants. One of the bandits, a hulking brute with a scarred face, points a rusty cleaver at you. Well, looks like we have uninvited guests. I draw my great axe, horrified at the sight, and attack the bandits. Because, yeah, I don't see myself getting out of this without a fight. Darius' blood runs cold, his stomach churning with revulsion at the sight of the burning child. A guttural roar escapes his throat as he rips his great axe from his back, the heavy steel gleaming menacingly. Without a word, he lunges towards the hulking brute, his eyes burning with a righteous fury. I attack Bandit 1 with my great axe and use my action surge to attack Bandit 2 with my great axe. See if we can get the double immediately. Alright. So, I'm just going to have... It's going to go too fast for me to read, so I'm just going to give you the lowdown. Alright, so first attack is a success. And I kill the first bandit. And I succeed the next attack against the other bandit. And kill the other bandit. Darius, engulfed by a primal rage, let out a guttural roar that echoed through the smoky clearing. Your great axe, drawn with furious intent, cleaved through the air, striking Bandit 1 with a sickening crunch. The bandit barely had time to gurgle before collapsing, utterly lifeless, to the ground. Without missing a beat, powered by the sheer adrenaline of your action surge, you pivoted. The great axe, still wet with the first kill, swung in a devastating arc connected with Bandit 2. This bandit, too, fell in a heap, their life extinguished as quickly as their accomplices. The clearing, now silent save for the crackling pyre, stood witness to your swift and brutal justice. The two crude bandits lie dead at your feet, their plans of disposing of the child's body brought to a sudden, violent end by your warmth. I try and put out the pyre with the dirt on the ground. The stench of burning flesh and accelerant still hangs heavy in the air, a sickening testament to the horror you've witnessed. With a grim determination, you drop to your knees beside the smoldering pyre. You begin to furiously shovel handfuls of loose earth and damp leaves from the forest floor onto the flickering embers. Each scoop of dirt hisses as it smothers the flames, sending up clouds of acrid smoke. Slowly, painstakingly, the glow of fire diminishes, replaced by a dark, wet mound of earth. The smell lingers, a haunting memory of the vile act, but the fire is out, and with it the active desecration of the child's remains. As the last embers die, a profound silence descends, broken only by the forest's natural sound, which now seems far too cheerful for the grim scene. I loot the bodies and look for anything that can identify the child. I'll take the crude dagger and the rusty cleaver. You turn your attention to the fallen bandits, their lifeless eyes staring blankly at the forest canopy. You search their crude clothing, finding a rusty cleaver and 3 copper pieces on the hulking brute, and a crude dagger and 5 copper pieces on the other. Scant spoils for such depravity. With a heavy heart, you then approach the now extinguished pyre. The remains of the child are a ghastly sight, charred beyond recognition. The heat was wrapped what has warped what little clothing remained, and the small body is little more than a burnt husk. You carefully sift through the ashes and debris around the body, your fingers recoiling from the touch of the grim remnant. There's nothing left, no trinket, no faded scrap or fabric, nothing that could possibly offer a clue to the child's identity or who their family might be. Only the profound, tragic silence of an innocent life brutally extinguished. I try and bury the body of the child using my great axe as a makeshift shovel. Alright, strength roll. We got this. Ooh, is that a strength save? Yes, we do got it. Alright. With a grunt of exertion, you plunge the broad head of your great axe into the forest floor. The earth, softened by dampness and leaf litter, yields begrudgingly. You hack and scrape, using the heavy weapon as best you can, slowly carving out a shallow trench beneath the souring trees. Sweat beads on your brow, mixing with the grime on your face, but you press on, fueled by a somber resolve. Finally, a sufficiently hollow is formed. With immense care, you gather the charred remains of the child, wrapping them gently in a piece of your own cloak, the least you can offer. You lay the small bundle into the earth, covering it tenderly with soil and fallen leaves. A silent prayer, a moment of profound sorrow, hangs in the air. The small mound serves as a grim marker, a testament to a life brutally cut short, now finally laid to rest in the cold, unfeeling earth. I move on. I continue on the path to the next town. As I check my character, we are actually pretty close to leveling up. I might have to put a disclaimer on this, but you shoulder your great axe once more, leaving the makeshift grave behind. The weight in your heart is heavier than any weapon. The image of the burning child and the brutal efficiency in which you dispatch the bandits will likely haunt your steps for some time. The forest, once a mere passage, now feels tainted, the usual sounds of nature offering little comfort. You push on, the path stretching endlessly before you. The familiar sounds of the forest slowly reassert themselves, though they seem muted, insignificant after the raw violence you just witnessed. The sun begins its slow descent in its light softening through the trees, casting long, dancing shadows that seem to mock the fleeting peace of the day. You walk with a grim purpose, seeking not just the next town, but perhaps a measure of peace, or at least distraction from the lingering shadows of the clearing. I continue on. As the last vestiges of daylight fade, the forest transforms. The dappled sunlight gives way to an inky blackness, punctuated only by the pale, ethereal glow of the rising moon. Filtered through the dense canopy, the air grows colder, and the chorus of chirping birds is replaced by the rustling of unseen nocturnal creatures and the hoot of a distant owl. The path, once clear, now feels like a treacherous ribbon winding through an endless void. Every shadow seems to hold a hidden threat, every rustle of leaves a potential ambush. You pull your master's cape tight around you, its familiar weight a small comfort against the encroaching chill and the oppressive silence of the night. You continue to press forward, your senses on high alert, the memory of the clearing still fresh and raw in your mind, seeking a sign of civilization in the dark wood. I set up a makeshift camp and go and take a long rest until morning. That way I can get my action search back. You find a relatively sheltered spot beneath the gnarled roots of an ancient oak, its massive trunk offering some protection from the night's chill. With practiced movements, you clear away some of the undergrowth, creating a small makeshift camp. you don't bother with a fire. The scent might attract unwanted attention, and the memory of the fire is still too raw. Instead, you wrap yourself in your cape, your great axe close at hand, and settle down, listening to the symphony of the night forest. Despite the grim events of the day, exhaustion eventually claims you. The sleep comes in fitful bursts, but it is enough. As the first pale streaks of dawn begin to filter through the canopy, painting the eastern sky in soft hues of gray and rose, you stir. The cold dampness of the forest floor has seeped into your bones, but your body feels renewed. The weariness of the journey and the recent horror a little less acute, you rise, stretching out the kinks, ready to face the new day and whatever it brings. I continue on the path. I continue on the path. With the first true light of dawn breaking through the canopy, painting the forest floor in shifting patterns of gold and green, you rise and continue your journey, the air crisp and cool, carrying the fresh scent of pine and damp earth. The unsettling darkness of the night has receded, replaced by the comforting, if still watchful, presence of the walking forest. Or the waking forest. The walking forest? Fuck. The path, still winding and narrow, seems a little less daunting in the daylight. The memory of the previous day's horror remains. A cold knot in your stomach, but the immediate threat is past, replaced by the quiet determination to reach the next settlement. You walk with a steady pace, your senses alert, listening to the renewed sounds of birdsong and the rustle of small creatures in the undergrowth. After some time, you notice the trees begin to thin, and a faint, almost imperceptible shift in the quality of light ahead. Continue on. As you press onward, the forest finally gives way. The dense canopy recedes, replaced by open sky, and the narrow dirt track widens into a proper, if still unpaved, road. Ahead, nestled in a gentle valley, lies a small village. Smoke curls lazily from the stone chimneys, and the distant sounds of hammering and children's laughter drift on the morning breeze. The buildings are a mix of weathered wood and rough hewn stone, clustered around a central square where a well and a stout wooden gallows stands. Villagers move about their morning chores, some leading livestock, others tending small gardens. It is a humble place, yet it bustles with the quiet life you left behind just yesterday morning. The memory of the clearing and the pyre still stings, but this site offers a different kind of solace, a return to the world of the living. Find a place to sell the weapons I took from the bandit. No, I accidentally pressed enter. I wanted to press the apostrophe. Make your way towards what appears to be the village's general store. A small, cultured building with a perpetually open door. Inside, the air is thick with the scent of dried herbs and old wood. Portly merchant with spectacles perched on his nose looks up at you as you enter, his gaze sweeping over you and resting for a moment on your great axe. Produce the rusty cleaver and the crude dagger, laying them on the worn wooden counter. The merchant squints at them, picking up the cleaver with a disdainful sniff. These? He grunts, dropping a bound down with a clatter. These are barely fit for kindling, friend. No use for such scrap here. Most folks make their own or make do with what they have. He then gestures to a shelf behind him. Now, if you're looking for something practical, I've got some decent wares. A wooden shield, perhaps? Or some leather armor, even a healing potion if you've been out in the wilds. Oh, did I just use all my money? anything but potion with torches and ask much the wares I picked out are. Place the crude weapons back on the counter, then pick up a small corked vial with a shimmering red liquid, a healing potion, and a bundle of 3 sturdy torches. The merchant watches your selection with a flicker of interest, his previous disdain replaced by a more familiar mercantile glint in his eye. Ah, man of practicality, he says, taking the items from your hand and placing them on the counter. A healing potion that'll be silver, 50 silver, and the torches, 3 silver for the bundle. Sensible choices for a traveler. He eyes you expectantly, his hand hovering near the small coin pouch at his belt. I give him 3 coins and put back the healing potion. I have 3 copper? What? Oh. My mistake. I say as I leave. So, you reach into your pouch, pulling out 3 copper pieces, setting them on the counter. Just the torches for now, you state, pushing the healing potions back towards him. The merchant picks up the copper pieces, examining them with a frown. He then glances at the torches and back at your hand. My friend, he says, these torches are 3 silver pieces. You have 3 copper pieces. I'm afraid that's not quite enough. Copper points back towards you, his expression is polite. Let's see. Will you take 10 copper pieces for... My mistake, I say as I leave. Well, I didn't know those were copper pieces, so I'm a lot broker than I thought. A flush of embarrassment rises on your cheeks. My mistake, you mutter, gathering a few copper pieces from the counter. You offer a curt nod to the merchant, who merely shrugs, already turning to straighten some bolts of cloth on a nearby shelf. Step out of the cluttered general store, the midday sun momentarily blinding after the dim interior. The sounds of the village square rushes back in, the distant clang of a blacksmith's hammer, the chatter of townfolk, the distant bleating of sheep. Small interaction, while trivial, leaves a sour taste in your mouth. You find once again in the bustling square the path forward uncertain, your pockets lighter than you'd hope. That's copper, motherfucker. Why do I still have this? Alright, I'll be polite and get rid of this stuff. Because I don't have it, really. Alright, sorry for the click. I kind of went and took a nap. So, what do we do next? That will use my skills as a fighter. I guess we'll try and get a some more coin. You survey the bustling village square, your gaze scanning for any signs of opportunity. Your eyes fall upon a weathered wooden board nailed to the side of the cooper's shop near the village well. Several notices are tacked to it, flipping gently in the breeze. Most are mundane, announcements of upcoming harvest, requests for lost livestock, or offers for simple labor. However, one parchment, slightly newer and scrawled in a hurried hand, catches your eye. It speaks of recent disappearances on the road leading west toward old logging camps. Travelers have gone missing and strange noises have been reported by woodcutters. The notice offers a modest reward for anyone brave enough to investigate and deal with the threat. Below it, a crude drawing depicts a snarling wolf-like creature, though its features are distorted and exaggerated. Take the notice and I take investigate the old logging camp. Investigate the old logging camp. Leaving the village behind once more, you head west, following the rough track that leads into the forest. The familiar embrace of the woods quickly surrounds you, the trees growing denser and taller with each step away from civilization. The sounds of the village fade, replaced by the rustle of leaves underfoot and the chirping of unseen birds. The path to the logging camp is less maintained than the one you followed previously, indicating its disuse. Overgrown bushes snag at your cape, and fallen branches occasionally impede your progress. As you delve deeper, the air grows cooler, and an unsettling quiet descends, broken only by the occasional snap of a twig or the distant cry of a hawk. After a while, the trees begin to show signs of human activity, old weather stumps, forgotten axe marks on the ancient trunks, and the faint melancholic scent of sawdust lingering in the air, hinting at the camp's proximity. Oop. I continue forward. You press deeper into the forest, the signs of the logging camp becoming more frequent and pronounced. Broken tools lie half buried in the undergrowth, and a dilapidated cart, its wheels rotted, sits abandoned beside the track. Excuse me. The path itself widens slightly, hinting at the heavy traffic it once bore, but now it is reclaimed by moss and creeping vines. A chill permeates the air even in the daylight, and the forest sounds are eerily subdued here. The birdsong has faded, replaced by an unsettling stillness that feels heavy and expectant. Suddenly, through a dense thicket of pines, the structure becomes visible. It's a crude wooden cabin, partially collapsed, its roof caved in. Beyond it, a clearing opens up, littered with more decaying logging equipment and the skeletal remains of what were once sturdy lumber piles. This is undoubtedly the logging camp, long abandoned and now seemingly haunted by unnatural silence. I search the camp for signs of the wolf-like creature. Alright. Wisdom roll. No, fuck. You move cautiously through the abandoned logging camp, your eyes darting over the rotten timbers, overturned tools, and scattered debris. You scrutinize the soft earth for tracks, examining the gnawed edges of fallen logs, and peer into the shadows beneath the collapsed structures. The air is thick with the scent of damp wood and decay, but no distinct animal scent, no fresh claw marks, or disturbing scat presents itself. The camp remains stubbornly silent, offering no clear answers. The faint signs of human activity here are old, covered by the nature's patient reclamation. The crude drawing from the villagers' notice lingers in your mind, but here, in the cold reality of the abandoned camp, the menace feels less like a snarling beast and more like an invisible, insidious presence. The unsettling stillness continues to press in, making it more difficult to discern if the creature has merely moved on or if it's simply better at concealment than you are at finding its traces. I search the surrounding forest for sign the beast. Alright, let's see if we can actually not critically fail. There we go. Wait. Oh, it's fucking survival. You push deeper into the forest surrounding the camp, your eyes scanning the leaf litter and soft earth for any impression, any broken twig that might betray the presence of a large predator. Hours pass as you methodically comb through the undergrowth, your senses strained. The forest here is ancient and dense, its floor a tangled mess of roots and fallen leaves, making fresh tracks nearly impossible to discern. No telltale paw prints, no distinct claw marks on the trees, nothing that definitively points to the monstrous wolf-like creature depicted on the notice. However, if you move through a particularly dense patch of ferns near a half-collapsed lean-to, you stumble upon something chilling. Partially hidden beneath a pile of rotting branches is a tattered, muddy satchel. Its leather is cracked and stained, and when you cautiously pry it with your boot, a few tarnished silver pieces of small ivory comb spill out. These are clearly human possessions, and they bear no signs of having been chewed or dragged by an animal, suggesting a more deliberate, sinister end for their owner. The stillness of the forest suddenly feels oppressive once more, the air heavy with unspoken dread. I loot the belongings. You carefully collect the tarnished silver pieces, counting 15 in total, and retrieve the small ivory comb. Its delicate teeth still mostly intact, despite the satchel's decay. These meager possessions, so clearly human, speak volumes more than any animal tracks might have. This was no mere beast of the woods leaving its mark. There's a more sinister intelligence at play here. The discovery shifts your focus. The wolf-like creature from the notice board now feels less like a literal animal and more like a desperate, perhaps misled, attempt by the villagers to describe a threat they don't understand. The silence of the forest, once merely unsettling, now feels heavy with a different kind of presence. One that hunts not just with a claw and tooth, but with cunning. With the satchel's contents secured, you now have a tangible link to one that disappeared, but also a stark realization. The danger of these woods is likely far more complex than simple predation. Now, do I have... Okay, I need to... Okay, so 15... That's weird. I do have 15 now. I search the logging camp again for signs of bandits or something more intelligent. Alright. Oh, motherfucker. Yeah, shit. You turn to the derelict structure of the logging camp, your eyes now sharper, your mind honed on finding evidence of human or humanoid presence. You meticulously scour the collapsed cabin, peer under overturned wagons, and sift through the layers of leaves and debris around the old fire pits. You look for discarded tools, remnants of food, recent footprints, or any sign that these grounds have been used recently by sentient beings. Despite your renewed focus, the camp yields no clear answers. The faint scent of old smoke is merely that, old. The few tracks you find are overgrown and indistinguishable, blurred by time and weather. The rusted tools are truly abandoned, not just momentarily left. The silence remains profound, almost unnatural. It's as if the intelligence you suspect has been at work here. Is either incredibly meticulous in concealing its presence, or perhaps operates from a hidden layer deeper in the woods, using the camp merely as a desolate backdrop for its deeds. The lack of concrete evidence for bandits or other intelligence life only deepens the unsettling mystery. I search the woods for tracks to a camp for a hideout, encampment, or signs of intelligent life. Alright, let's do it. Finally, Jesus. You abandon the immediate vicinity of the camp, pushing out into the deeper woods with a renewed determination. Your senses acutely attuned to the subtle disturbances in the natural world. Your eyes, trained by years of tracking and observation, begin to pick out almost imperceptible signs. A barely disturbed patch of moss here, a broken twig arranged unnaturally there, a faint, almost imperceptible trail where the undergrowth seems just a little too sparse for natural growth. Following these subtle breadcrumbs, you delve deeper into the untouched wilderness. The faint path that you discern leads away from the logging camp, winding its way through denser thickets and over a small rocky ridge. As you crest the rise, a new scent reaches you. Not the acrid smell of the pyre, something musky and animalistic, yet with an underlying unpleasantness that suggests poor hygiene in a confined space. It's subtle but unmistakable. It is subtle but unmistakably present. Ahead, nestled within a natural depression shrouded by ancient pines, and you see it by thick ancient pines. You see a cluster of roughly constructed shelters, partially camouflaged by wooden branches. A faint wisp of smoke curly lays from one, confirming your grim suspicion. A hideout. I scout the hideout and count the number of enemies. Alright, let's see if we can, Alright, this shouldn't be too hard. Well, it shouldn't be. Oops. As you attempt to creep closer, a loose stone crumbles beneath your boot, sending a cascade of pebbles down the slight incline. From within the crude shelter, a chorus of snarls erupt. Three figures, weary and clad in scavenged hides, burst forth, their crude weapons glinting menacingly, their eyes narrow and feral, fixed on you with predatory intent. We got three thugs. I go up to the thugs and swing my axe at thug 1. Then use my action surge to swing my axe at thug 2. Let's make sure I'm using my great axe. Alright, let's see here. I hit. Kill the thug. I hit. And I kill the thug. Okay. I swing my axe at Thug 3. That's kind of weird. Alright, we hit Thug 3. Darius, your investigation into the missing travelers led you to a hidden, crudely constructed hideout. Though your scouting attempt was cut short by misstep, you sprang into action as three weary thugs emerged. With a furious display of your combat prowess, Great Axe flashed twice, stiffly dispatching the first two attackers before they could even properly reach. Last remaining thug, though wounded, managed to land a minor blow, but it was not enough to deter you. With a final powerful swing of your Great Axe, you brought the last thug down, silencing the immediate threat. The camp is now quiet, its illicit operations brought to a definitive halt by your hand. Are the thugs dead? The air is clear. The air, including still thick with the scent of pine and something metallic. Three thugs lie sprawled and broken amidst the makeshift shelters, their crude weapons scattered beside them. They are undeniably dead, their eyes staring blankly at the canopy above. The silence that follows your rampage is found, broken only by the distant rustle of leaves and your own ragged breathing. The illicit operation, whatever its true nature, has been brought to a defiant, violent end. Loot the bodies and the camp. You systematically strip the fallen thugs, finding a meager collection of coins, 12 copper pieces and 3 silver pieces in total. Along with a rusty dagger and 2 crude clubs, their pockets yield nothing of note beyond a few scraps of dried meat. Moving through the makeshift shelters, you discover moldy rations, rough bedrolls, and a handful of dried herbs. Tucked beneath one of the bedrolls, you find a crudely drawn map of the local forest with several locations marked, including the village you just left. But it is a pile of bones in the corner of one shelter that truly chills you. Most are clearly animal, but some are disturbingly small, undeniably human bones not clean. The wolf-like creature now appears to be a front for something far more predatory and utterly ruthless, a sinister enterprise that consumes its victims entirely. Count the coins in my coin purse. Let's try this. $41 silver pieces. Okay. I go back to the village and find the person who put out the notice. You make your way out of the grim hideout and back through the forest, disturbing discoveries from the camp heavy on your mind. The path back to the village feels shorter, perhaps due to your grim determination. Soon, the familiar sounds of civilization grow louder, and the first scattered farmhouses come into view, quickly followed by the cluster of buildings of the village. Returning to the bustling square, you head to the cooper's shop where you first saw the notice. The weatherboard still displays the bounty. You scan the wording again, looking for a name or address, but only vaguely refers to the village elder or council representative. Now you face the task of sifting through the village's inhabitants to find one responsible for posting such a misleading yet ultimately crucial plea for help. I ask the villagers where the village elder is. You approach a woman who is meticulously sweeping dust from her doorstep, her brow furrowed with concentration. Ruckus interrupts as you offer a polite greeting and inquire, "Excuse me, good woman, could you tell me where I might find the village elder?" She straightens, her gaze sizing you up with a mixture of curiosity and hint of trepidation. "The elder, you say? He's usually at the old mill by the river," she replies, pointing a gnarled figure towards the eastern edge of the village. "Either that or he's at his home near the square, the one with the blue shutters. But he's most likely at the mill this time of day overseeing his grinding." With a nod, she returns to her sweeping, dismissing you with the flick of her wrist. I take the notice and head back to the old mill to find the village elder. Carefully peel the bounty notice from the cooper's shop board, its rough parchment crackling slightly in your hand. With a clearer destination in mind, you set off towards the eastern edge of the village, following the woman's directions. The sounds of daily life slowly shift as you move away from the central square. The clanging of the smithy fades, replaced by the gurgle of a nearby stream. Soon, the rhythmic thud, thud, thud of a water wheel grows louder, and the impressive structure of the old mill comes into view. Its weathered wood sides are streaked with moss, and the steady plume of white flour dust billows from an open window. The air smells distinctly of grain and damp earth. Inside, through a wide open doorway, you can see a burly man covered in flour overseeing the massive grinding stones. This must be the village elder. I ask the man, "Excuse me, sir. Are you the village elder?" You step into the dusty interior of the mill, the rhythmic thrum of the grinding stone vibrating through the form. The burly man, whose shoulders are thick with flour dust, turns as he senses your presence, his gaze sharp despite the fine white coating on his eyelashes. He's indeed an older man, his face weathered like ancient bark, but his eyes old and clear, intelligent light. "It depends on who's asking and what business they bring," he replies, his voice in a deep rumble that almost competes with the mill's machinery. He wipes a flour-caked hand on his trousers, eyeing you with a cautious yet assessing expression. "But yes, I am Elara's Millicent. What can I do you, stranger?" I reveal the notice and say, "Found your beast. They turned out to be a small band of cannibals can take you to their camp if you want, but it's not a sight for the faint of heart." Sorry, as a wannabe, hopefully soon to be author, I gotta make sure it's properly punctuated. You unfold the bounty notice. It's depicting of a snarling wolf, now seemingly tragically naive, and place it on a nearby flour-dusted barrel. "You saw the beast," you state, your voice grave, "but what I found was far worse. A small band of cannibals preying on travelers. I can take you to their camp, but be warned, elder, it's not a sign for the fate of heart." Laura's Millicent's eyes, sharp and intelligent, widen almost imperceptibly as your words sink in. The rhythmic thud of the millstone suddenly seems to recede, replaced by a tense silence. A flicker of disbelief crosses his face, quickly replaced by profound wariness and a hint of dread. He looks at the notice, then at you, then back at the notice, his jaw clenching. "Cannibals here?" he murmurs to himself, then to you, the word tasting bitter on his tongue. "Are you certain, stranger? This is a grave accusation. I saw a pile of bones, some beast, and some human. You want confirmation? Take you to their hideout. But like I said, it is grisly sight." You meet Alara's Millicent's gaze without flinching. "I saw a pile of bones, Elder. Some clearly animals, but others disturbingly human, gnawed clean. If you require confirmation, I will lead you to their hideout, but I repeat, it is a grisly sight." The Elder's face pales, the fire dust on his cheeks making him look almost spectral. He closes his eyes for a moment, a deep, shuddering breath escapes his lips. When he opens them again, the weariness has deepened, etched into every line of his face. "No," he says, his voice barely a whisper. "No, I believe you, stranger. The detail of the bones, a beast would not do that." He shakes his head slowly, the horror of your words sinking in. "I need to see it for myself, not for proof, but to understand the evil that nested so close to my people." He claps you firmly on the shoulder, the gesture conveying a mix of gratitude and grim resolve. "Lead the way." I lead him to the camp. You nod, a somber understanding passing between you and the elder. Turning from the mill, you begin retracing your steps, leading him away from the familiar sights and sounds of the village. The paved path soon gives way to worn dirt tracks, then to tangled undergrowth of the forest. Gentle rustling of the leaves, a distant bird song replace the rhythmic thrum of the village, but a different kind of tension now hangs in the air. Alaris Millicent, despite his age, keeps pace with you, his expression grim. He doesn't speak, conserving his breath, his eyes scanning the shallow depths of the trees, perhaps already imagining the horrors you describe. You navigate through the familiar landmarks, the twisted oak, the moss-covered rocks, until a faint, acrid smell of the bandit camp permeates the air. The trees suddenly seem to press closer, and the forest's usual sounds grow hushed, as if even nature holds its breath in anticipation of the grim discovery. Lead him into the camp. You lead Alaris Millicent through the final screen of brush, and the gruesome scene of the camp is laid bare before him. The makeshift shelters still stand, their crude construction a testament to the depravity that unfolds here. The stench of stale blood and refuse hangs heavy in the air, cloying and sickening even after your previous visit. His eyes, wide with disbelief and dawning horror, scan the ground. He sees the scattered, picked-over bones, some undeniably human, stark white against the dark earth. The remnants of the makeshift pyre, where you extinguished the child's last resting place, are also visible. A black stain of the forest, the elder stops. A black stain on the forest floor. Stops dead in his tracks, a strangled gasp escaping his lips. His face, already pale, drains of all color, and his hand clutches his chest. For a long moment, he simply stares, his breath coming in ragged gasps, and as if the sheer evil of the place has stolen the air from his lungs. I give him a to recover, then say, point at the makeshift grave and a child's corpse. Buried it since I couldn't couldn't discern who the child belonged to or who the child was. Do you know of any missing children? The elder moment to compose himself, the silence of the gruesome camp broken only by his ragged breathing. When he finally seems to regain a semblance of control, his eyes still wide with shock, he gestures towards the small, freshly disturbed patch of earth. I also found a child's corpse, you say, your voice lowered. I buried it, as there was nothing less to discern who they were. Do you know of any missing children, Elder? Elara's Millicent tears his gaze from the bone-strewn ground and fixes it to the small grave. A fresh wave of anguish washes over his face, deeper than the horror he displayed for the cannibals. A child, he whispers, the word thick with grief. No, not recently, not that we know of, but the lumberjacks. Some of them had families with them before they disappeared. We assume they just moved on. God, the child. He trails off, his eyes welling up with unshed tears. This happened to Norse village. Let's see here. We're gonna make him a bit of an honorable person. Please keep the coin you offered. Stopping this heinous act was more than enough of a reward. We'll make him a bit more honorable. I'm sorry this happened to your small village. Please keep the coin you... we'll just say village, actually. To your village. Please keep the coin you offered. Stopping this heinous act was more than enough of a reward. Lars Millicent looks at you, a profound gratitude softening the lines of grief on his face. I'm sorry this happened to your village, you say, your voice gentle. Please keep the coin you offered. Stopping this heinous act was more than enough of a reward. Takes a deep, shaky breath, wiping a hand across his eyes. No, stranger, he says, his voice firmer now, though still tinged with sorrow. That coin is your by right. You faced this evil and you brought us the truth. The bounty was for the beast, and you found something far worse and dealt with it. To deny you payment would be to deny the severity of what you've done for us and for that lost child. He reaches into a worn leather pouch at his belt, pulling out a handful of silver coins. Consider it a small token of a village's immense gratitude and a promise that the folk of Alaris Mill will not forget this day or your courage. I solemnly take the coins and nod. Then lead the village elder back to the village when he is done at the camp. Solemnly accept the coins. The weight of the silver, a stark contrast to the grim reality of the camp. Silent nod, you offer the elder a moment longer, allowing him to process the horrific scene. When he finally turns, his face etched with sorrow, but also a newfound resolve, you begin the journey back to Alara's mill. The return walk is somber. The elder, usually so robust, now moves with a heavy stride, his gaze distant, lost in thought. He doesn't speak, the horrors of the camp having stolen his usual boisterous energy. The forest seems to breathe a sigh of relief as you leave the tainted clearing behind, the sound of nature slowly returning to their usual rhythm. Soon the familiar thrum of the water wheel grows louder, and the sign of the village's first few houses breaks through the trees. Familiar sounds of daily life, once a distant memory, now promise a return to some semblance of normalcy, albeit a normalcy forever changed by the grim discovery you both shared. I think we're gonna end this episode here. It's actually over an hour, so, and I think we kind of, actually no, we're gonna, since we did level up, we got pretty good amount of silver. Find a tavern, rent a room for the night, and take a long rest. So we are actually going to go ahead and level up. I'm kind of wondering what they give us at level 2, because they gave us action surge at level 1. So it's taking a bit. Huh. Okay. Let's try this again. Might actually just uh have said too many things, actually. So, well, I guess I'll stop the recording here and just come back to this later. So, oh, there we go. I have action surge again? What? As you enter the village square, the sound and smells of daily life wash over you, a stark contrast to the morbid silence of the cannibals' camps. Your mind is weary from the grim discoveries and the emotional toll of the day. You spot a sturdy-looking tavern, its sign depicting a leaping stag, and decide a proper rest is long overdue. Inside, the tavern is warm and lively, a comforting antidote to the cold dread of the forest. You arrange for a room for the night, a simple but clean space above the common room. After paying a few silver coins for the lodging, you retreat to your room, shedding your travel-stained gear. The bed, though modest, feels like a luxury day after days spent sleeping rough. You drift into a deep, dreamless sleep. The long rest slowly mending your both body and spirit, easing the weariness and restoring your strength. All right. Well, now I'll end it. All right. See you in the next part.